If you like fantasy art, you're probably, like me, fascinated with dragons. Although these beautiful creatures don't exist, it's certainly possible to draw a realistic dragon. The Game of Thrones dragons are such example of great dragon design, and I think for many people they're the main reason to watch the show. Let's be honest, they look totally badass, especially since, spoiler alert, Viserion has been turned into an ice dragon. For an artist, this blue undead dragon can be a great, inspiring subject to draw. So if it inspired you to want to learn how to draw a dragon, or especially how to draw dragons the easy way, you came to the right place. My name is Monika Zagrobelna, and this is a video tutorial on how to draw an ice dragon from Game of Thrones on Untitled Chapter. A few words before we start. I draw my dragon digitally in Autodesk SketchBook Pro, but the method presented here is universal. However, if you want to draw a dragon traditionally, it's best to have a light table or at least a window to draw the particular stages on separate sheets of paper. It can be hard to keep track of all these lines if you keep them all on one sheet. Also, although this method of drawing dragons is easy, it's not fast. If you want to draw a beautiful, detailed dragon, it requires time and lots of patience. If you want to draw dynamic dragons, it's always best to start with a gesture sketch. Imagine the pose that you want to draw and sketch it with as few lines as possible. Here I turn the head, the neck, the torso and the tail into one long curve and the wings into two more curves. As simple as it is, I can already see a dragon here. Now it's time to add some basic skeleton to define the proportions. First, draw the chest. Game of Thrones dragons have a very big torso, which is fitting because they need huge, powerful muscles to power these huge wings. Next, draw the hip area right behind. Like in birds, there's not much space between the chest and the hips. And a simplified head at the end of the neck. A sphere for the brain case and some ovals for the jaws. Keep the head quite small to make the rest of the body look large. Now sketch the legs. Make them very simple, but remember about bending them in the right places. There should be a knee and an ankle. Draw 3 long toes. The wings may seem intimidating, but we can make them simple by focusing on the skeleton first. Wings are just like human arms. First, draw the arms in the back. Make sure they're symmetrical in perspective. Then draw the long forearms. Next, draw the fingers. Game of Thrones dragons have 5 long fingers and a thumb at the top of each wing. Draw these fingers with long, flowing lines, giving them all consistent rhythm. Let's add some details to the skeleton. First, add the joints to the wing fingers. Each of the long fingers should have 2 joints, and they should be placed at a similar distance, unless they're foreshortened by perspective. It's good to connect them like a web to keep the rhythm consistent. Always keep perspective in check. If one joint is closer to the viewer than the other, the distance between them should be smaller than normally. The bigger the difference, the bigger the shortening. The left wing of my dragon is a great example of this. Notice how short the first finger looks and how long the last one is. Next, do a similar thing to the legs. Mark the joints and define the perspective. Add some shape to the feet and make the toes clearer, imagining the joints in them as well. Add the thumbs. Let's make the skull more detailed. To define its perspective, turn its main sphere into a box. Draw a line in front of it to draw the upper part of the muzzle. Keep it simple and geometric. Once you draw the upper jaw, the lower one shouldn't be too hard. Just make sure that its front is finished with the same line as the front of the upper jaw and that it's pointing towards the middle of the box. Add a simple chin and a cheek to finish the look. This may be just a skeleton, but you can already see a dragon in this drawing. We only need to give it some body mass. My favorite method to add organic forms to the body is to draw the curves that curve around the imaginary shapes. This helps create an illusion of something three-dimensional without too much thinking, and you can quickly see what you're drawing without actually drawing it yet. The whole trick is to turn the curves towards this side of the shape that is farther from the viewer. The farther it is, the stronger the curve. You can practice with simple shapes first before you add these lines to your dragon to make sure you know what you need to do. How to turn these curves into real shapes? It's pretty easy and very effective. Draw lines along the back, the underside, and both sides of each shape, then outline the whole shape as they suggest. You can also add more lines in between to make the shape even clearer. It's important to remember that you can only see one of each pair of opposite lines at one time. So for example, if you can see the underside of a shape, it means you can't see the back at the same time, or left side and right side at the same time. This is especially important when you draw a rotated shape, like the tail. Keep a consistent distance between the lines, even if that means that they have to disappear after they touch the edge. Now add some body mass to the legs. Draw big outlines of the thighs and calves, imagining them like balloons. Then outline the toes, building them out of two segments, an elongated oval and a teardrop shape. Outline the wing arms as well. Make the arms thick and strong and the forearms more elongated. Outline the thumbs as well, just like toes. Make the joints in the fingers thick to define the thickness of the fingers before you start outlining them. Then add the outline, connecting the joints to each other. Remember that these are supposed to be bones. Keep their shape organic, slightly curved, with a slight bulge around each joint. Keep in mind that the foreshortened fingers should be just as thick as the others. Now add the curves to these new body masses to define their three-dimensional form. Draw the sidelines along them in such a way to better see their sides. Try not to add too many lines, just enough to clear any confusion. Connect the elbows to the back of the dragon. Then connect all the joints at the same point on the back. This will help you draw the membrane between the fingers in a convincing way. It should be stretched between the joints and the body. Be very careful when drawing the wing that's closer to us. Some lines will cover each other, and that's fine. That's just how perspective works. It may look very complex, but if you drew the structure of the wings correctly in the earlier stage, this part shouldn't be a problem. The dragon's body is established and ready to be covered with details. However, these details will need their own foundation too. It's time to switch to a new layer or a new sheet of paper to keep the drawing clean. Let's start with the head. Draw the eye sockets to plan the location of the eyes. Draw the shape of the top of the head over them. Then create a nice outline of the upper jaw. Some curves will help you see the shape of what you're drawing. Draw the lower jaw the same way, sculpting a more detailed shape out of the basic shapes below. Keep the muzzle narrower than the rest of the head. To draw the horns, draw a spherical base for them first. Then sketch their shape and add the curves. There are also two smaller horns on the head. Draw them the same way. Draw the teeth as simple lines along both jaws. Add some gums in the upper jaw, draw the throat and the tongue. Draw the eye inside the eye socket in such a way to keep it right under the top surface of the head. Let's make the neck more detailed now. Outline its shape once again, adding more side lines to better see how thick it is. Draw the rows of spikes along the neck. There should be 2 of them on each side, but draw them only where they're visible. Add some spikes under the neck as well, but keep them much shorter. Add similar short spikes along the top of the head and on the sides of the jaws. Draw the details in the legs now. Outline one of the toes, accentuating its sides and joints, then copy its shape to the other toes. Don't forget to outline the claws as well. add ligaments on top and outline the whole foot and leg. Draw the other foot the same way, copying the shape of the toes that you developed earlier. Then outline the whole leg, sculpting its detailed shape in the basic forms below. It's a good time to show a suggestion of some muscles. Add the curves around the shapes again to keep perspective in check. Time for the wing arms. Cover the shoulder with a big muscle, then outline the rest and add more curves. Try to make the arms look bigger and stronger than the legs. We have the limbs and neck in place now, so we can feel what's left, the torso. Draw the huge breast muscles in the front, connecting them to the shoulder. Draw the lines on the side and the underside to make the whole shape more detailed. We don't want a simple round torso. Some variety of shapes will create a suggestion of muscles which will give a more natural effect. Draw the spikes along the tail. Make sure you follow the perspective lines that you've created before. There are 2 rows of spikes on the sides like on the neck and 1 row of short vertical spikes that gets longer towards the end. Once you're done with spikes, outline the whole shape of the tail. Be careful to draw the curves as the shape suggests. It's too late to change it now. Back to the wings. Outline the arm and the thumbs. Give the final shape to each finger and outline the membrane, keeping it properly stretched between the fingers. This is the part where you should finally ignore the overlapped elements, for example the parts of the fingers covered by the membrane. This is the end of stage 2, so it's time to go to another layer or another sheet of paper. The ice dragon is almost finished, and now we only need to outline the details in the final way. This is the most pleasant part, because you can't go wrong here. All the deviations from what I'm presenting will only make your dragon more unique and add your own style to it without making it look wrong, as long as you keep your changes consistent. The goal here is to outline everything you've defined before, this time with more careful lines, because they're here to stay. Keep the lines variable in thickness and give the spikes and teeth a little irregular shape. You can also include parts of the perspective curves, making them a part of the details. They may suggest rows of scales or folds in the skin, adding volume to the whole shape without too much work. Finally, take some darker tool and outline the whole body of the dragon. This will create a more finished look, even though there are many details that still could be added to this drawing. Variety of thickness in the lines can create a kind of pleasant contrast that will make up for the lack of shades and colors. You can also add dark but slightly thinner accentuating lines inside the main outline just to separate the parts of the body and make everything even more three-dimensional. Just don't outline everything. Balance is the key. If you want, you can also add some ice fire coming from the mouth. Optionally, you can color a dragon to make it clearer that it's Viserion after the change and not any of the 2 other dragons. You don't have to paint any details. This dragon is detailed enough on its own to look great with very simple coloring. And that's all. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please like, share and subscribe. This was Monika Zagrobelna for Autodesk SketchBook Pro. Thanks for watching.